Fast and Furious 6 came out in 2013. After which it was announced that the next sequel, Furious 7, would be released in 2014, a whole year later. However, on November 30th, 2013, Paul Walker, along with his friend and colleague Roger Rodas, were killed in a single-car accident in Valencia, California. Paul Walker was 40 years old. Roger Rodas was 38 years old. Neither of them survived. This threw the future of the Fast and the Furious franchise into question. Like, what were they going to do? How is this going to work? I remember when I first found out, I was at a friend's house. And I didn't believe it at first. We had to look it up. And yeah, it was true. They were in the middle of filming for Furious 7 at the time. And Paul Walker had not finished filming. He had not finished his filming. So what they had to do, they had to bring in his brothers, Caleb and Cody. Cody, who looks remarkably like him, to substitute as doubles, along with a little CGI, to finish Walker's parts in the film. Also, as a result, the ending of the film, and ultimately the fate of the character of Brian OConnor, had to be changed. And because of this, the film is kind of... the ending to the film feels disconnected from the rest of the film, if I want to be honest. Because you get this post-pounding action sort of Fast and Furious film with this ending that doesn't feel like it connects to the rest of it. Because all the other endings of the Fast and Furious films feel like it's an ending that feels like it sums up everything that has happened, and it kind of ends. The first Fast and Furious movie ends with Brian giving Dom his keys. That kind of collects, everything that's happened in the film. Brian realizes where his true allegiance lies with, where he belongs. And he gives the keys to Dom. Too Fast, Too Furious, even, he and Roman, they're friends again. They got some money. Pockets ain't empty. We ain't hungry no more neither, bruh. It kind of comes together. It finishes everything off. Even Tokyo Drift has an end. Sean's the new DK. Dom wants to race him. Fast and Furious has an end where it's like, okay, we're going to set up the next film, but it's an ending. And then Fast 5 has an ending where they're living, they go on a race. Fast and Furious 6 has an ending where everything comes together. This ending is disjointed from the rest of it. It's like, here's your post-pounding action movie. Oh, here's a little prologue. Show what happens to Brian O'Connor's character. I'm not saying it's bad, it's nice, anything about that. I think the way they handled the ending, and we'll get to that one this time, but the way they handled it was perfect. Don't mess. I keep hearing they're going to try to bring Brian back in some way, shape, or another, and I mentioned this in one of the earlier reviews. If they do that, I only want to have it maybe, like I said, Mia's on the phone, you see the back of his head. That's it. Don't try to bring the character back as a major player in the franchise by any means. It'll ruin the end that they gave to the character of Brian. And I don't think Vin Diesel would disrespect Paul Walker's memory by doing that anyway. He's a producer, so I don't think he's going to let anything bad happen to the character of Brian O'Connor. I don't think he'll do anything unless it's out of respect. And no disrespect, but I don't think bringing Brian back is worth that. So, it was announced that they weren't going to kill off the character of Brian O'Connor, which is what I think everybody thought was going to happen. Oh, he's going to die sometime in the film, and that'll be it. Well, they decided to retire Brian instead, which is more respectful than just, oh, Paul Walker died, so Brian has to die. No, it's showing respect for the character and the actor, but just having the character retire. As for the performance, it's very hard to tell when they do the CGI. There are a couple instances where you can tell. There's some, like the scene where they jump from one building in that dope ass red car to another. You can kind of tell that CGI in Walker's face. And of course, the end part, it looks kind of robotic when he moves his head. You can tell that's CGI. But that end part is probably all CGI for him. So, the fact that it looks, well, you can do CGI good. Look at Thanos in the Avengers movies. CGI can be done good if there's enough money put into it. You don't need Steppenwolf CGI from Justice League. Nah. So, what's the story? I've talked about this Paul Walker stuff enough. We'll get to the end and we'll get to it. What's the story? The story is Deckard Shaw, the older brother of Owen Shaw, who's still alive but in a coma, by the way. I remember when I first started to see this, I'm like, he's alive? I thought he was dead. He's alive, apparently. Who knew? Deckard Shaw is out for revenge for what happened to his brother. And the first person he takes out is Hobbs. Now, Hobbs is not in this film a whole lot. And that's because Rock the Dwayne Johnson was busy filming Hercules during the filming of this film. Even though maybe most of his stuff was filmed before Walker's death, because I felt like, because after Walker died and they said they have to push it in a year, I'm thinking, because The Rock wasn't going to be in it at all. And I'm thinking, the only reason he's in it is because of Walker's death, And so he was able to be in it a little bit. But he's not in it a whole lot. He's at the beginning. There's this thing where Deckard shows up, he blows up the DDS office, and he and Elena fly out the window, and and he ends up in the hospital. There's a little talk between him and Dom, and then he doesn't show up again until the climax. But for the part that he's in it, I think he does a decent job. The Rock never has really that bad of a performance, and Hercules isn't that bad of a movie either. I have the Steelbook, so I have the regular Blu-ray over there. It's not that bad of a movie. I actually like it. Tony Jaa, martial artist Tony Jaa, he has a small part in this as well, as does Ronda Rousey, which, from the posters you've seen on my wall, I like her. But she's a small role. I thought she was going to be another character like Gina Carano from the last one. She has one scene, basically, and it's a fight against Letty. When they have to get this. So, among other things, they bring a sort of FBI type service. It is, I'm not sure what it's called, but Mr. Nobody, as he calls himself, played by Kurt Russell, and his team come in and they tell Dom they need him and his team to help get something called God's Eye, I think it's called, and the hacker who created it, Ramsey. And if they do that, they could use, and if they do that, Mr. Nobody will let them use God's Eye to track down Shaw. Deckard Shaw kills Han, as we know from the previous film. And there's a cameo from Lucas Black from the third film. There's a small little cameo appearance where they're talking, I found this in the crash, and there's a picture of Giselle, and then the necklace, which has been important since it showed up. And we find out how important it is later, but it's like, as soon as he sees that, he's like, where did you get this? You know, he was in a crash or something, I don't know. But we know that Deckard left it there. Let's talk about the character of Deckard Shaw here. Jason Statham, not a bad performance, but the way they handle his character is just... I talked about Owen Shaw and the convenience of him having everyone, you know, on his side, basically. Like, him having complete control of the situation. Here, it's similar with that coincidence and safeness, where Deckard Shaw is somehow everywhere the Dom is. Like, they're at Han's funeral, Deckard shows up. They're on a mission on a mountain, Deckard shows up. Wherever they go, Deckard shows up. Yes, they tell us later that he hacked into satellites to find them. But it's just like, it's way too convenient for him to be able to do that. I know we live in an age of internet. But I remember when I first posted, like, how does he keep finding them? Because it's just like, he's there. How would he even know? The one thing that caught my mind is that he was working with the Jakande, whatever his name is, played by, I forgot the guy's name, the actor. I'm going to look it up here. Jamin Honsu. Oh. So, I figured, you know, Ramsey, who's a woman, she was going to end up being part of the team anyway, and she does come back, and I guess she's set to be in the ninth one too, but so is John Cena, which is, yeah, so this Jakande, Jamin Hansu's character, he's part of this organization who wants the God's Eye for something. And they're working with Shaw. So that makes it more convenient that when the Climax happened. The Climax is all about hacking into God's Eye. And I guess because they're aligned with Shaw and Dom wants to take down Shaw, they're all in the same place at the same time. Because otherwise I can't think of why they would even still be around instead of doing their own means if they weren't just helping Shaw take down Dominic. Mia's not in this a whole lot. She's maybe at the beginning and the end. And then she's not in the 8th one. I hear they're bringing her back for the 9th one, but it's like, why? I think her time with the franchise, I know she has a lot of connection to the franchise and she's very close with Vin Diesel, but I think her time with the franchise should be done as a respect to the character of Brian. And because I always thought, why would she come back and Brian wouldn't? That's the whole thing. She's not in the 8th one, is she? Am I stupid? I don't see her name on here. This is the cameo, because you do get 2 cameos on this too that make me smile, but yeah, as for the villain, the character of Jakande, he's kind of a one-note villain. I think he's dead by the end of this anyway. The climax is a decent climax. They're basically playing hot potato with Ramsey while they're trying to hack it. And then Brian has to do this thing where he goes off on his own and he has to reset the connection so that they can rehack it. They get the God's Eye back, stuff like that. Basically, and then the thing on the mountain, right backwards. It's all great action. There's great action. There's great stunt work. There's great action fights. The fight between Dom and Shaw is a great fight. You know, I especially loved earlier in the film when they go to fight. Deckard Shaw is like, you think this is going to be a street fight? And he pulls out a gun. So at this point, Toretto comes out with a gun and he says, it was going to be a street fight. fires a shot into the air and says, "You're goddamn right it is." Throws the gun down. They fight. And eventually ends up being crumbled. And Dom is possibly dead. And the whole story with this and this one is that Letty still can't remember anything. But it's when Dom gives her the necklace, the cross necklace that been his necklace in the beginning, and it's very important to him that she remembers that they got married in the Dominican Republic, which I don't think means they're legally married in America unless they got remarried. How does that work? If you're married in another country, are you still married in America? And if you come back, are you still... I don't know. But she remembers everything. He's like, "It's about time." And there's another great line from him where she asks, "Why didn't you tell me?" And he said, "You can't tell someone they love you." Great line. And then this is where the movie ends for me, is where Shaw is locked away and The Rock has him thrown in there. And Shaw says, "You know I'm going to get out of here, right?" And The Rock says, "Well, once you dig through 30-some feet of concrete, my fist and a body bag will be waiting for you." Which, I think this ending gets ruined by the 8th one, because what they do and the way they present Shaw going forward, and we'll get to that in the 8th one, because there's some conflicting stuff going on with the 8th film, but we'll get to that. So for me, that's where the movie ends, and then we get the farewell ending for Paul Walker. They're on the beach, and Brian goes to play with the son and Mia, and they're running around. And by the way, Mia is pregnant again. And the whole thing with this is that Brian still misses the bullets, but he wants to be with his family, and now he's done. He belongs with his family, and that's the end. So this is how they handled it. They retired him, like I said they did. Dom gets up to leave, and Ramsey says, "You're not going to say goodbye?" And Dom turns back around and he says, "It's never goodbye." And this is what gets me every goddamn time. Because I cried in the theater, and every time I watch this, I end up crying, and it's because this part. He says, when he says, "It's never goodbye," the music starts. For the song that was dedicated to Paul Walker, "See You Again," by Wiz Khalifa featuring Charlie Puth. It starts. Dun, 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 ba-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Waterworks. Immediately, I start to tear up. It's that sound cue. It's never goodbye. Dun, 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 dun. Ba-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. It's been a long day. And then it shows all of them together. And then we get Dom driving off. He stops at this fork in the road or whatever. White car pulls up next to him. It's Brian. Says, "Thought you would leave without saying goodbye." And then we get an inner monologue. It's on my door. Where Dom says, it's an inner monologue, what's in his head. He says, "I used to say I lived my life a quarter mile at a time. And I think that's why we were brothers. Because you did too." And then we get a whole flashback to all of Paul Walker, like a bunch of Paul Walker scenes in the previous film. Song plays. And then he says, "No matter where you are, whether it's a quarter mile away or halfway across the world, halfway around the world, you'll always be with me. And you'll always be my brother." Song plays. Oh, and then they veer off, and Dom goes in one direction, and Brian goes in another direction. As he gets more and more, the screen gets white, and then a title comes up and a title card comes up and says, "For Paul." And out of respect, there's no mid-credit scene or anything. That's just the end of the film. And I remember sitting at the theater, and yes, I cried because, oh God, just talking about it, I had to tear up a little bit. I'm sorry. Call me a pussy. Call me what you want. But it's just like, I saw that. And it was, I told my friend, he's like, "Don't worry about my wife cried too." I'm like, "That's your wife. I'm a man. I'm not supposed to cry like that." But I cried. I cried. Call me a bitch, whatever. But I cried. To this day, I still do. I just watched it. I cried again. Because it's like, that's it. I mean, I cried to the ending of High School Musical 3, for God's sake. Because that's it. What do we got now? Nothing. We got some show on Disney Plus that's not even High School Musical. It's about being in a musical of High School Musical. It's stupid. But, like, we're still getting Fast and the Furious movies. And I'll tell you my opinion on the 8th one. I don't think it's bad. When we get to that one, I'll tell you about it, what I think about it. Rewatching it again might change my mind. You never know. But, yeah, for this one, Furious 7, one of the better ones in the franchise. Give it a 9 out of 10. What are your thoughts on Furious 7 in the comments below? What do you think of how they handled Paul Walker's death and the exit of Brian O'Connor? Comments below. Like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one. Oh boy, we got to talk about the next one because,